Michael Blair. I'm a senior IT GIS project manager, strategist, architect, DBE, business development manager, whatever hat I need to play at whatever time. I've been doing that over the course of my career. I started when I was 2. So just give you a context of, been doing this for 32 years. So, just kind of give you some idea. No, but it's seriously the Esri world. I've lived it for a very long time. It's really exciting where we are today versus where we were back years ago. Some of you may have followed that journey along with me and know where all the skeletons and all the issues are and working through that. One of the things before I get into the actual presentation that I want to kind of outline for you, first I want to apologize as I misread the agenda. So my presentation is really intended to be really short. So I will get into more detail on each slide. And as I said, because I presented this at UC as a lightning talk, and I thought this was more of a lightning talk. Like, oh no, you have half an hour. Great. So I have lots to share. Let's see. So just a quick who Innovate is, because many of you probably don't know who we are. Innovate is I call us a full IT GIS technology consulting company. Everything from infrastructure, migration to the cloud, application modernization, database architecture, AI, ML, feature extraction, data analytics, data science, training, etc. And you might have followed a theme between my background and what Innovate does. That's part of the reason why I came to Innovate is I get to do all the stuff that I used to do at a company that is pretty big. We're headquarters in Virginia, but I actually live in New Bern. So if Alice is on the line, hello. But as you can see, I'm not going to read all this, but we are a women minority-owned small business. We are an Esri Gold partner, and really pride ourselves in a number of the awards that we have received over the years. We are also an AWS Select Tier partner, and we do migrations in Azure as well. So we're cloud agnostic in that context. Quick, we support a lot of different organizations from federal government, state and local government, enterprise, engineering firms, nonprofit organizations, a number of tribal communities, higher ed, et cetera. Because we have a very diverse background, we're able to support a very diverse client base. And we do hold, at time, we are tied for holding the most special Esri specialties of any other company. Diverse background, diverse specialty background, and whatever area that you're interested in. And part of the reason our name is Innovate is we get to use all this great technology to be innovative. So enough about Innovate and who we are, because that's not why you're here. You're here to learn how and why to integrate SharePoint and document management with Experience Builder. So how many of you use SharePoint? A very large number, which is great. So we had a client, a tribal client, that was trying to figure out how they could have a better document governance within SharePoint. Because it was really the Wild West. They had trying to track parcel data and documents and the attachments associated with parcels, as built, various components of the transactions of that property, and use SharePoint to keep it all straight. Well, when in SharePoint they had everything filed by the parcel ID. Parcel ID isn't very intuitive, so we were working with trying to identify how could we build a system for non-GIS users that manage these documents in SharePoint in a much easier user interface. And I do have some pseudo live demo components up here. So we knew they had an enterprise system, or we stood one up for them, and they wanted to be able to leverage the mapping capability along with their SharePoint capability. And I know this slide, there's a lot of words on it. I'm going to dive into more detail into actually what all of this stuff means. So just kind of what we did. We installed and stood up their enterprise from a needs assessment, as they already identified. They were trying to figure out how to manage all of these documents. And they realized, okay, we're going to use SharePoint, and we're going to leverage Experience Builder and the SharePoint Active Directory components to be able to keep track of all these users. This is what the architecture looks like. Probably a little bit hard to read, but we have the Microsoft Power App, SharePoint, all connected. And on the left-hand side of this slide are the components of the integration with the Microsoft Active Directory. And then that is linking to a geodatabase that has all of their projects and their parcels. So that's the architectural components. That's all the integrations of how this thing was built. And you can see there's document repositories and in just purely in SharePoint. So this is what the Active Directory linkages. The top slide, again, it's hard to read, I know. The Active Directory is both integrated to Experience Builder as well as SharePoint. So that's really all this talks to. Okay. So more of the guts of what we're doing. So we stood up Experience Builder out of the box, just as the previous presentations talked about. You know, custom widgets, or excuse me, out of the box widgets like select widget, zoom in, base map switcher. There's other widgets here. But you may question, well, doesn't Esri have a SharePoint tool already? They do. There's limitations what you can do with the SharePoint integration to Esri component. That's not within, well, it's within Experience Builder, but there are some limitations. So the first thing was to bring in the parcel data and all of the attributes, all the CAMA data behind it. So what you're seeing here is actually a custom widget that we built that has various documents associated with that. So if you think about the workflow, a non-GIS user opens up this web app. They click on a parcel or multiple parcels. They click on the document viewer over here. And if their privileges allow them, they have the delete function. Again, this is reading out of Active Directory and a group in Active Directory. If they don't, they won't see that icon. And then they click choose file. They choose file, they grab the file, the PDF, the text file, whatever, on their desktop. They hit go. It sends the file to SharePoint in a folder that's associated with that parcel. So they don't have to know the parcel ID. They don't have to know anything other than I can find the file, I can find the parcel, and then I can upload the documents. So this is what I was just talking about. This actually shows you the documents on the lower right. So you can select one or many properties. The documents are listed over on the right-hand side. If you click on the document, it opens that document up within your window. And in this case, it's a PDF. So you're actually seeing the data coming from SharePoint in Experience Builder. So you no longer have to open up SharePoint, go to the folder, find the document that you're looking at, because you can see there's a bunch of documents that have gibberish naming, right? I don't know, is this the parcel data? Is this the survey data? Is this the purchase sale of this property? I have no idea. So they're very easily able to pull this information up. And one of these slides, I do have an animation, so I want to be cognizant of that. So this is also digging into the attributes, and it's a little hard for me to see. That's why I keep looking at the screen. So this digs into the documents themselves associated with an individual property. And if you click on the document, it links to the attribute table, and that's that primary key, foreign key relationship. And you can also, behind this little thing, you can also click on uploading the files. Hopefully. So this is an animation of the application and how they use it. So they use a select widget that's out of the box in Experience Builders. They select the property. These are all the documents that are associated with that property. They can click upload document. They can preview the document. Again, this is directly out of SharePoint. So now we're choosing a document to upload. They select it, hit go. You can see it gets added to the document repository. This user has privilege to remove that document, so the trash can is there. If they didn't, they wouldn't get the trash can. This is the attribute table that's associated with the parcels. So you can see all of the CAMA data or all the assessment data that is associated with that. So again, one easy interface to manage parcel information, but this could be associated with anything. This could be points, it could be polygons, it could be lines. Doesn't matter what the features are. It's the associative data back to the files. So these could be roads, as-built. It could be wells and all of the contamination surveys that you have conducted. It could be meters. It could be parcels in this case. That's my point. My contact information. You got plenty of time to ask me lots of questions. There's a couple. One in the back.
Thank you. So do you have a procedure in place for folders on your SharePoint server that may become orphaned if parcel numbers change? If that's how you're tying them together, or?
Good question. So is there a process to manage the orphaned folders in SharePoint? I don't believe we do, but that's a great enhancement. It wouldn't be hard to do because we have some geoprocessing services that are running behind the scenes. There's actually quite a few of them. So we could easily reach back into SharePoint and identify any empty or any orphaned property. I'll bring that back to the team. That's a great enhancement. There's a question up here.
Okay. Yeah, I think there's an outfit in North Carolina called Farragut Systems.
Mm-hmm.
And their CAMA system is basically the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners. It's their pet. So they want to take over North Carolina with this CAMA system. The way their GIS, the way their transactions are designed, if I had a 500-acre tract and I split 2 acres off, both listings are retired.
Okay.
The homestead never stays. So every time you do a redevelopment of a large tract, taking the smaller tracts out of it, the homestead does not stay active for generations. Every single time it's retired. Okay. And a new child. Farragut now has almost half of all parcels in North Carolina. 2 counties they have. So that is going to be the future. Mm-hmm. These retired and these legacies moving to a retired parcel. How do we get to it? So you'd have to think about that. Yeah, I know their system and the normal GIS world are not really communicating.
Yeah. So if I were to put my database administrator hat on, I would create a relationship table between it to keep track of the homestead, and so that you could understand what the lineage is of when you do your splits. I did lots of parcel mapping in my day. So to be able to track that heritage and that history of that data, which would then also go back to the conversation or question about the orphan files, because you would want to also carry those over back into both SharePoint from a file repository perspective, but also making sure that you're not duplicating data. Which that's how I would handle it in the grand scheme of things. The other component that I would want to bring up is, and I might have mentioned this, if I did, I'm going to repeat myself. Part of this process enables the user to select multiple properties. So if you're having to do, a butter lists or surveying for, multiple properties and you have to retain documents for them, this enables those documents to automatically go into each one of the properties folder. So it's much easier. And also think about the user base. These are non-GIS people. These are, administrators, county people, in this case, tribal community folks that are just taking in documents, scanning them, get an email. Okay, what folder do I put this in? This is Blair's homestead. Where do I put this in? Let me pull up the property ID. Well, what do I go into the CAMA system and look for it? Well, I know where it is, so let me just pull up the map. So now they just pull up a map. They click on the property, they grab that document, and they upload. And so it's improving their ability to interact with the data that is spatial, but they're not used to managing it in a spatial format. Question?
Can you use it with existing files in SharePoint? So we do it through SharePoint now, it wouldn't change the
Yeah.
file system?
Yes, thank you for bringing that up, because I missed that as part of this presentation. Yes, you can still interact with SharePoint the way you do today, both for existing files as well as any new files. So if you go and upload a document in SharePoint because you just happen to be a savant and you know the property ID and you just want to go into SharePoint and you upload the file in SharePoint, you'll see that file in Experience Builder. So, and I might have been remiss. The widget that we built is a custom 4X JavaScript widget. And the reason why we did it versus using the out-of-the-box SharePoint components that Esri has is we needed to have the widgets interact with each other. So when you go select a property, we grab the property ID. That needed to be also shared to the SharePoint controller document widget. And you can't do that integration with the out-of-the-box SharePoint integration tool. If you can, we were not able to figure it out. So things might have changed in the last year or so, but I don't think so. Any other questions? Anything from the chat?
Not seeing anything from the chat. If you have one, go ahead and type it in now.
Got plenty of time, right? Well, 10 minutes. Appreciate it. A lot of questions. So anything? Excuse me. If you have any, excuse me. If you have any questions or you want to chat later, I will be around and I'll be at the social tonight. So, or obviously you have my contact information. I do live in North Carolina. I'm happy to come see y'all or go or get on the phone. We do lots of components and lots of moving of systems and how do I migrate this thing to the cloud and how do I do my modernization of this? And so happy to talk to you. And with that, I bid you adieu.